Hey guys, what's up? We are back with another video today, and today we are doing our Arkansas prediction video. So make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Help me reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers by the end of June. I'm closing in on that goal. Make sure that you also like this video if you enjoy it. Comment your thoughts and opinions down below. What do you think Arkansas's record will be come the end of the 2023 college football season? Do you think that they could compete for an SEC West title and compete with the likes of Georgia and Tennessee out of the SEC East? So let's make our way over to the schedule. But before we do, also make sure that you check out the website, the podcast, and the Patreon page, as well as College Football Roundup. The tag for College Football Roundup will be up in the top right-hand corner of the screen right up here. So let's make our way over. So as we make our way over, Arkansas has a bit of an interesting schedule this year. They start off the year against Western Carolina. I'm going to give them a big win there. That game will be played in Little Rock, not in Fayetteville, but it should be an easy win. Western Carolina is not much competition whatsoever. And this is kind of where the schedule continues to be easy. Kent State, this should be an easy win. Kent State is lost their quarterback. That's Toledo, not Kent State. Kent State really just does not have the same viability that other MAC schools do. They're just not as good. They're one of the worst MAC schools, and the MAC just does not compete. So this is where the schedule kind of gets interesting. You started off against BYU. This is a home game for the Razorbacks. I think that this is going to be a tougher matchup. BYU does bring back some players that are at least decent. You did lose your quarterback in Jared Hall, as well as your top wide receiver in Punkanuka. And you lost some defensive pieces as well. So I think that you do have a lot to replace overall. But at the end of the day, I think that you get a win here, mostly because of the experience of KJ Jefferson and the running attack that the Arkansas Razorbacks bring to the table. With Rocket Sanders, I think is just a little bit too difficult for BYU to handle. But talking about another team that can run it down your throat with an athletic quarterback, that's LSU. This is going to be a tough game. It's in Baton Rouge. It's not in Arkansas. Last year, if I remember the score correctly, was 10-13. It was a beatdown of a game. Just back and forth, back and forth. I think that this is going to be a similar game. And I think that for the most part, it's going to be a tough environment for both teams. And I think that with that and saying that, I think that this is a game in which at the end of the day, it's going to be a loss. I think that Arkansas does have a little bit to work on. I think with Jaden Daniels at quarterback, I'm just a little bit suspect of them defeating the reigning SEC West champions in the Tigers. Speaking of another close game that they lost last year, that was Texas A&M. And let's be honest, folks, that was a game they should not have lost, and it shouldn't even have been close to a loss at all. This should be a win. This is the annual Jerry Jones Classic. Here's the problem. Texas A&M looked bad last year. I really still don't understand why Arkansas lost that game, and because of that, I think they get a win. I think that you're in a good shape if you're going into that game. And plus, you got to get a win because you have two tough road games with Ole Miss and Alabama, because Arkansas has a tough start of the season to SEC play with a road game against LSU, a neutral site game against Texas A&M, a road game against Ole Miss, a road game against Alabama. It's going to be a tough start of the SEC season. You got two easy games, but then once you get into that week 3 slate before the bye week, it really starts to get difficult. Then you head to Oxford to see Lane Kiffin's Ole Miss Rebs. This is a tough matchup. Like I was saying earlier, these both are going to be tough matchups. Ole Miss, particularly Jackson Dart at quarterback, I think is going to be as good as KJ Jefferson. I like KJ a little bit better. I think KJ is probably the third best quarterback in the SEC, maybe the second best, depending on who you're looking at. for quarterbacks. I think he's simply one of the most experienced quarterbacks, having now, I think, 2 full seasons of starting under his belt. You're just looking at a high-level guy with a lot of experience, which is lacking in the SEC, where Florida has a new quarterback, Georgia has a new quarterback, Alabama has a new quarterback, Tennessee has a new quarterback. LSU is the only other big-time team in the SEC that brings back a quarterback. Otherwise, you're looking at teams like Vanderbilt and Missouri and I guess kind of Texas A&M. But at the end of the day, I think that this is a loss. I think this is kind of one of those 50-50 games that it's going to be tough to decide, and I'm going to give the edge to the Rebs just because of it being on the road. Then you head the following week to Alabama to play the Crimson Tide. I think that this game is going to be interesting. Last year, you got killed in the first half, then you came back. Then you gave the game back up. I think it's an interesting kind of setup. I think that you have a lot to work on if you're Arkansas going into this year. But I think that at the end of the day, if this game was the first game, if that was the September 23rd game with LSU, if you switch the two, I think that it is a better chance that you beat Bama, because I think that Bama is in a tougher position. But with it being midway through the season, I think Bama has enough time to adjust with the new quarterback, new offensive coordinator, and stuff like that. I think it's a loss. Then you welcome home for your first true home game of the SEC slate against Miss State. And I think that this one is a win. I think that Miss State and Zach Arnett, they have a lot of work to do with the sad passing of Mike Leach after the regular season last year. I think that Miss State, I like Will Rogers. I like where they're at in that sense. But I think that when you lose a coach like that, that's going to be tough as an environment on a team. And the first year with Zach Arnett, I think that Miss State's got a little bit of work to do, and I think that Arkansas just simply has the upper hand talent-wise. Then you head to Gainesville for your final road game of the season, and that is against Florida. I think that you get the win here. Same reason as kind of a couple other teams in the SEC. Florida has a lot of work to do with losing a little bit of an experienced quarterback in Anthony Richardson. I think that Florida, they're in a tough position. Nate Pure really got handed a tough deal because I think that he has a lot of work to do. And right now, I don't think he is a person to replace Anthony Richardson at quarterback. And I think that if you're going to be able to do that, maybe later on in the season, they're in a better position, but I'm going to have to give the game to Arkansas at this moment. Then you have Auburn coming to town. This should be a win. I think that even though Hugh Freeze with Peyton Thorne at quarterback and a couple other pieces coming in, I think overall they're in a good spot. They're in a better spot than they were last year. To be fair, they were in a terrible spot last year. Brian Harskin was a terrible hire, but I think I'm going to have to give the win to the Razorbacks. They're simply just a more talented team. Then your fourth and final win, another easy non-conference win against FIU. I think that this game should be no issue and a warm-up game for Missouri. Finally, you have the border war between Missouri and Arkansas. I think that this is going to be an Arkansas win. I was a little bit disappointed last year when Arkansas lost to Missouri. I was very shocked, to be completely honest, and I just didn't know why. But really, when it comes down to it, I think Arkansas finishes 9-3. I think they have a very successful season. I think they finished third in the SEC West. You'll have to check out my Alabama and LSU videos to see who I have finishing 1 and 2. But I think Arkansas has a good season. I think they finished 9-3. I think the big difference between them and a number 2 spot is that Alabama game. If you can get a win, or if you can get a win against LSU or something like that, I think that you can possibly get to that 10-2 mark. Obviously, beating Ole Miss is a possibility. But if you're going to get to that number 1 or 2 spot, you're going to have to beat either Alabama or LSU. So that's going to pretty much wrap up today's video. Make sure you get the 2 videos down below here if you're on the YouTube channel, and hit the subscribe button up here as well. And as always, make sure you have a great day. Bye, guys.